How does all of this apply to our reading of the Bible, our understanding biblical characters like Mary? You should have noticed through the course of these presentations an invitation that you have been given to put new conceptual frameworks in your head. The conceptual frameworks you and I have in our heads are Western. Use it to read the Bible, and the Middle Eastern authors will be manipulating in us the wrong conceptual head furniture. They're going to be telling us things as Middle Easterners. We're going to be hearing those things as if they were Westerners, and distortion and misunderstanding of the text necessarily will result. Inescapably will result. Because we're going to be looking at it ethnocentrically. We're going to be looking at it as if these people are Westerners, like Mary, for example. Result, the biblical authors cannot possibly be communicating to you. Your United States conceptual furniture will not work on the Bible. Our challenge is to place Mediterranean conceptual furniture into our heads, so that the ancient biblical authors, our ancestors in the faith, can manipulate them, and we can get their points. That's empathy. That's respect of the biblical authors. You know, I can say, I love you, Jesus, I love you, Jesus, I love you, Jesus. But if I commit identity theft on Jesus, which I do whenever I make him into an American who buys American values, or Colombian. If a Colombian makes Jesus into a Colombian who buys Colombian values, or an Ivory Coast person makes Jesus into somebody buying Ivory Coast values, that's identity theft. That's not love. I mean, if you grow in the love of somebody, don't you have to get to know them on their terms? Or is it just all a whole lot of nothing? Take Abba. What does it mean, class? Huh? Daddy? How many people say daddy? Okay, Abba never meant daddy, it never will mean daddy, and simply cannot mean daddy. It doesn't mean daddy, can't mean daddy. The Aramaic word Abba has always meant Israelite father. But a German scholar named Joachim Jeremias, in all sincerity, said that Abba did in fact mean daddy. And he did it in sincerity, and all of us bought it, including all the German scholars bought it. Now German scholars, and really the entire world, are reluctant to change that. But the American scholar and philologist James Barr reviewed all the evidence and concluded in 1988 that Abba does not mean daddy. Let me show you why. How should one translate into English the German Vater? Father. Notice how quick, how fast we answer with that. Like the study in the trial. Guilty. The Spanish padre, what should we translate that to? Father, right? Into the English father. The French père, right? That's father. Do all fathers in all cultures father their children the same way? The ancient Greek pater, from where we get patriarch. Do we learn to speak English in German soundings and spellings? Yes or no? Do we learn to speak English in Spanish soundings and spellings? No or yes? No. Do we learn to speak English in French soundings and spellings? Do we learn to speak English in Greek soundings and spellings? No. Okay. Some people would say that the German Vater, the Spanish Padre, the French Père, the Greek Pater, all are the same thing. They all are synonyms. They all translate into English as Father. What kind of images come to your mind when you hear the word Father? Huh? Oh, sorry, I don't know how he got on there. Oops. Okay. That's better. Ouch. Sorry. Huh? But the word father, as used in English-speaking, non-bilingual United States communities, Raven was indicating, refers to persons who fulfill the roles, behaviors, values expected of adult males in prevailing American society. The meaning of father derives from the roles, behaviors, and values practiced in society. In one case, yes, all human fathers are the same in one sense, just as all humans are the same in one sense, 100% the same and 0% different in terms of biology, basic biology, neurobiology, for example. But culturally, we're 50% the same, 50% different, aren't we? And as individual persons, we're 100% different and 0% the same, irreducibly unique, every one of us. Do you think culture affects fatherhood? While we might translate padre or vater or père with the English father for practical purposes, the accuracy of the translation is doubtful, since the social roles of each of the persons called by those names is not the same as in American society. A more accurate translation of padre would be Spanish father in English. A more accurate translation of Vater would be German father in English. A more accurate translation of Père would be French father in English, and so on. Abba, solemn father, Middle Eastern, ancient Israelite father. Abba, who Proverbs and Sirach tell us his role and responsibility is to make the son unquestionably male by beating him again and again and again until he's strong enough to not complain while he hangs on a cross for 6 hours. If an American father did that to his son, what would we do to that American father? He would be arrested. Have you all ever read Hebrews? The book of Hebrews? So let's see this concretely from one of the passages of the Gospels. Matthew chapter 11, 25 to 27. At that time Jesus exclaimed, I give praise to you, Pater, Lord of sky, vault, and earth. For although you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned, you have revealed them to little ones. Yes, Pater, such has been your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Patros. No one knows the Huios except the Pater, and no one knows the Patera except the Huios, and anyone to whom the Huios wishes to reveal him. We might translate Huios there as broker, because that's kind of what the elder son is in this society. And the Pater, or Patera, or Patros, is the patron, a very Mediterranean concept, like the Godfather. Huh? Like that? You might have the wrong conceptual framework if you don't. That's the dad we imagine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to see God a little bit like Papa, like the shack does, right? And even Papa in the shack is challenged. If you ever watch that movie, I think that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly beautifully spiritual. But what was the literal sense back in the Bible? What did the authors mean originally? If you are in Mark's Gospel, which is the only one of only 2 places where the word Abba occurs, the Mark and Jesus prays, Abba, Father, let this cup pass from me. The Greek language does have a word very similar to our English daddy, papas, but that word is not used. The Greek language in Mark clearly reads Abba Pater. Pater never means daddy. It means Mediterranean father in the most solemn sense. And so does Abba in Aramaic. So that is a piece of cultural furniture that you have in your mind that you simply need to change if you want to accurately and respectfully read the Bible. Abba is not a warm, friendly, loving reality. It's okay if you read that as God later spiritually. But if you want to see how we got there, if you want to go back to our biblical ancestors in the faith, and even our blessed Lord, the pre-Paschal Jesus, the Jesus before his death and resurrection, you got to see how boys were raised in the Middle East. And when you see how boys were raised in the ancient Middle East, you'll realize that the term daddy cannot denote the male leader of a Mediterranean household. I'm not saying there isn't love there. It's a different world. It's a world which is based around the concept of honor. And everything depends on honor. One's public claim to value and the public's acknowledgement of this claim. Sons there don't cry out daddy when their fathers thrash their ribs, yank their ears, cane their backs, and beat their heads all the time. They cry out father in the most solemn sense. And this is not a slam on Middle Eastern cultures. This is explaining it's a different world.